Welcome to the Embodied Mystic Podcast, where we explore the path of feminine awakening and luscious womanhood. Together we'll be diving into topics like sacred sexuality, feminine embodiment, spiritual healing, and soulful relationships. I'm your host, Tamar, tantric mentor and Aries hype girl, here to guide you back to the temple of your body and fall in love with being a woman. I look forward to journeying together. Hey everyone. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to be here. I feel so excited. I am so glad to be here with you and to chat with you, and I'm really excited about this episode because if you know anything about me and my work and what I'm about, I feel passionately about making love and sacred sexuality and the incredible transformational and healing powers that conscious sexuality has. So I am really excited to dive in with you today. I have quite a lot of notes, and I know also because I love this topic so much, it's going to be a really beautiful free flow. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what is the difference between having sex and making love. I know that before I started making love, when I was in a phase of my life when I was having sex, the idea of firstly just the language making love, just that phrase was so cringy to me. I was like, oh my god, kill me now, that's so embarrassing. And I know sometimes it's when I use certain language on my social media, sometimes I use this phrase ravished, which is really, it has this very primal, erotic, almost animalistic feel to it. And I have a friend called James. Shout out to James if you're listening to this. He loves to make fun of me, and once I used the word ravished, and he was like, what what time are we living in? I don't remember what he said, but he really made fun of me, and it was actually hilarious. And I remembered wow, this language, it's it hits different, and it can feel kind of embarrassing for people. I definitely used to relate to the phrase making love, and I used to when I would hear that phrase, I would think of some really cheesy, I don't know, really cheesy, cringy, 80s kind of sexy music playing. It's Marvin Gaye, Sexual Healing, and it's just cringe, and it's people with bad haircuts in slow motion doing weird things. So I just want to presence that it's if you're listening to this and you have some kind of resistance or tension in you, or maybe there's maybe it just feels cringe, this phrase making love, I totally get you. Like, I'm there with you. I remember that. And it's all good, baby. You please feel free to replace what I'm saying, like, with a phrase that feels more resonant for you. It really wasn't until I experienced what I refer to as making love that I understood what it meant, and I understood why it's called making love. So, yeah, firstly, I totally get you. If the language isn't vibing, please do what you need to do. We can call it, like just conscious sexuality, or just connecting sexually in a deeper way. So, before I got on my path of like spirituality and meditation and embodiment work, like I had done quite a lot of traditional psychotherapy, and it helped me a lot. But what I didn't really, what I couldn't understand was the amount of tension that I was carrying in my body. Like, I didn't understand the level of chronic anxiety that was my reality. It was like the daily just environment and energy for my world was just like steeped in anxiety. My body was so tense, and it's kind of this thing of like, if you think about a fish and you ask a fish what's water, they're not going to understand, because they're swimming in it all day long. So they don't have a reference point for what life is like without water. And this was really it for me around the level of tension and anxiety that I was carrying in my body, but also like how detached I was from my body. Like, I was not living in my body, I was living in my mind. My consciousness was like floating like up around my head. I was not deeply in my body. And when we live our lives like this, it's really hard to imagine, like, how could life be otherwise? And this is why I teach embodiment. This is why I teach meditation as a foundation for sacred sexuality and for tantric living. So, one of the biggest defining factors for me around what makes like a sexual experience, having sex versus making love, is around tension. It's like the level of tension that we're holding in our body makes a sexual experience feel so different. Because when we come to someone with tension in their body, like, have you ever hugged someone that was stressed and felt their stress? Versus hugging someone maybe when you're stressed and feeling their level of relaxation and openness and groundedness. Like, connecting physically with someone who is grounded and embodied and relaxed, it's medicine. And like, just speaking these words, like, maybe you can feel a difference in yourself. But for me, it's really brought me back to like my body and feeling myself and breathing and like being in connection with my soma. So when we are able to do the work of coming back to our body, coming back to ourself in the present moment, and release whatever we don't need to carry into the next moment with us, we're entering into a state of meditation. One of my Tantra teachers, the woman who taught me tantric massage, Ma Ananda Sarita, she is just wonderful. If you haven't already heard of her and you want to learn more about Tantra, her work is just sublime. She says that Tantra is the meeting point between love and meditation. Like Tantra is love and meditation. If there is love and if there is meditation, it's probably Tantra. So, yeah, there you have it. Tension. So the tension in our body when we come to someone and we are tense, and not just tense, but like when we are approaching an intimate connection with the sole intention of releasing pleasure. That would be cool. Releasing tension. Getting ahead of myself. So when we are coming to a sexual experience and we're wanting to release tension, like firstly, that's not a bad thing. Releasing tension is awesome. But the way that most of us imagine that we'll release tension through a sexual experience is by coming. It's by having an orgasm. For men, it's like, it's very clear. It's like they ejaculate and it's a big release of any tension they've been carrying. And same for women. Like if you are someone who can easily have clitoral orgasms, which is like, a clitoral orgasm is the one that's most easy for women to access. And it's the easiest one as well for a partner, like a male partner, to give a woman. This is also like such a common and awesome way to release tension for a woman. But when we are like going into sex with the goal of having an orgasm and releasing tension, like firstly, just the fact that we're going in with a goal is what I want to be like cautious with my words, but it kind of, it from a sacred sexuality perspective, like from this lens, it degrades the experience from being a meditation to being sex. And like sex is great. I really like, I don't want to bash sex. Like I love fucking. Go out and fuck. Go out and have sex. Great. But if you want to learn about making love, and if you want to deepen your experience of sexuality, we've really got to shift our perspective and approaching sex as a meditation, which is about dropping the goal, coming in fresh, or, even if we don't come in fresh, like just having the intention of being in a meditation, which means coming back to the breath, coming back to the present moment, coming back to whatever is happening right now, like that in itself is miraculous in my books. So when we have sex, we are approaching the thing. It's like a decision that's come from our minds. We're like, okay, now is the time we're going to have sex, and perhaps we're coming with an idea around like what we want from this experience, and what we want our partner to do, like, and even more kind of like, I will just say degrading, in the sense that it's like it's like degrading the experience from like an expanded making love to like having sex, which is what we all know how to do. It's this kind of like, we have our routines, we have our ways of doing things, and we just go in and do them. So yeah, maybe we are coming in with all these ideas around what we think we should do, what our partner might be expecting from us. Like maybe we're even going into the sexual experience because we think it's expected of us. And let's be real, like, so, like, especially for women, but also for men, like so many of us go into sexual experiences because we think it's what's expected of us. We think it's what a good wife does or a good partner does, and our heart isn't truly in it, like our desire isn't truly in it, and we are putting what we think is expected of us over what we truly want. And that in itself is such an eros killer. Like for both women and men, it's like feeling pressure to make love. It's like that for men, like this is a huge cause of erectile dysfunction, premature ejaculation. It's like it's a big thing. And for women, it's like nothing makes something feel less sexy than feeling like obliged. So yeah, as like just a little side note, if you are someone who is just like struggling to drop into your desire for sex and for like erotic connection, that's a question I have for you. Like, ask yourself, do you feel obliged? Do you feel like having sex or like being intimate is on your list of to-dos? Like, is it what you really want? And if it's not what you really want, like, I really just want to validate you there and say, like, that's totally fine if that's how you feel. And if it's an ongoing thing, like that's something that you might want to work with a therapist on. But yeah, we really want to be coming from our authentic yes. Like we want to be approaching lovemaking from this place. And if we're not, it's also like, I just want to put in a little caveat here. We are like majorly off-roading, but this is what it is. We're rambling today. If you're a woman, or if you're in the like feminine pole in your relationship, and like if you have a partner who is deeply attuned to you, like if you are in a space, like if you're listening to what I'm sharing in this podcast, and when I talk more about like the making love part. If you're like, yes, I do that, like we've got that, that's how it is for us. So if you are anyway like naturally more in that space, or maybe you've done like tantra work, I feel like there is a little bit of an exception. Like if your partner is masterful at leading you into your pleasure, and if you are receptive to be led by them in that way, and if you know your boundaries well enough, like if you're on a certain stage in your own embodiment journey where you feel like it can serve you to be a little bit more like yielding with your boundaries, then this is beautiful. Like it is sublime to have a partner who we trust enough to lead us beyond our resistance. But this is so nuanced, and it really takes a certain level of mastery and being able to hold our own in that, and having a deep sense of trust in our communication and like non-verbal communication with our partner. Like, you know, then we're talking about something else, and that's like the exception. But generally, like if you're really not feeling it, don't do it, babe. Just don't. So yeah, so back to like this thing of tension in our body, and yeah, like using orgasm for tension release. So when we are having sex, it's generally like there's like a casual feeling to it. Like it's something that we can kind of just like go into with, you know, whoever we choose, and we don't have much of a process around who they are or what they're bringing or what our relationship is with them or where the interaction will go. Like we just want to get some. We're like, yep, this is what's happening. Like we're having sex. Yay. Totally cool. So if you are going in to having sex and it's like from this more casual place, you know, like if there is pleasure, like if you are someone who is like connected to your pleasure, you know what you want, you know how to get it, you know how to do all of that, like firstly, you go, like all the power to you. But when we are like, when we do have that level of kind of like sexual education in ourselves, but we're choosing to go in like from a more casual place, it's kind of like it's more of like a mutual masturbation situation rather than like deeply connecting with someone else. Like there's a lightness to it, you know? And so that, yeah, it's just about depth, you know? And there's like a level of superficiality to the connection. Maybe it's not, you know, you're really not thinking about where it'll go or what'll happen tomorrow, or yeah. So that's like more, you know, a having sex vibe. So when we are like really connected to our pleasure and we, you know, we just like, we want to go in, we want to have sex with someone, it's more light, casual thing. During it, and like this is like really important as well, like during it, like we are focused on ourselves and we're in our heads. So we're thinking about what's happening, we're thinking about what we want, we're thinking about what's going to happen next, we're thinking about our orgasm. We are thinking about all the things, and yeah, we're focused on ourselves and our pleasure, and there's a level of selfishness to it, and selfishness has its place. And again, I am not shaming this kind of sexual interaction. Like, maybe that's clear. I hope it's clear. I'm not shaming it. I just want to name, like, how do we know the difference? How do we know? So we're focused on ourselves, we're in our heads, and if we do want the other person's pleasure, because many of us, we care. We're like, I want the other person to have a great time. However, a lot of the time, and we see this especially for men, but we as women, we totally do this too. We want the other person's pleasure, but that desire for their pleasure is coming from our ego and proving something about our own sexual prowess and our skills. We want to know that we're awesome. We want to know, that we're hot in bed. So we are invested in their pleasure. We want them to have their orgasm, but it's actually, deep down, it's about us. So, yeah. Oh yeah, and lastly, so yeah, this is the last point that I've made in my notes, and this one is, it's a little bit like, like, it's sad. I feel a little bit sad about this one because I just know this so deeply for myself. I really do, and I do want to name that, like, everything that I speak about, like, all of this, I know it. I know it from myself. I know it from the way that I used to be when I was sexual, so I get it. So, this one is definitely more for my sisters. So, what happens a lot of the time for women, especially if we might not be at a point yet in our sexual self-exploration and conscious awareness around our patterns and intimacy. We're not, like maybe we haven't truly woken up to how impactful having sex is. Like, maybe we're having these more casual sexual relationships, and we haven't arrived yet at a place where it's really obvious to us, like, what's the impact of this on me? So when I was in that place, I totally went into sex with a goal. At the beginning, it wasn't about pleasure because I was not connected to my pleasure at all. It was because I was attempting to create more intimacy with the man that I was sleeping with through sex. And I know that for, like, out in the world, oftentimes, like, the word intimacy is just used, like, interchangeably for sex, but intimacy is not sex. Like, you can be sexually intimate with someone and there can be next to no emotional intimacy, or soul intimacy or heart connection or feeling of closeness. Like, we can have sex with someone, and even though we are like the deepest we can physically be connecting with another person, like, we are so disconnected from their heart and their being and their essence, and it's just like, it's just heartbreaking. Like, it's heartbreaking, and it can leave us feeling cold and empty and dissatisfied and even used. So yeah, this one, it's sad. I really, really feel a lot of tenderness for like my younger self who did this, and for everyone out there who is listening to this and who just recognizes this part in themselves that is opening sexually with someone in the hopes that it will open their heart, like that it will open the other person's heart to them and to connecting in a deeper way. Because if you're someone who's done this, you will have figured out that it is a recipe for failure. It just doesn't work. Like, true intimacy with another human being can be hugely amplified by lovemaking. Like, oh my gosh, like, making love is one of the most exquisite experiences, but like, being in the space of making love, it comes from such a different space that we like occupy within our being, like, where we know that we can and do create really beautiful and touching intimacy with someone else way, way, way before the notion of sharing sexually is even on the table. And we know that we have the skills and the ability to just connect really deeply with someone without that. Like, it's totally not needed. So, yeah, this one is a tender one. But yeah, like, if we do recognize that we are going into sex as a way of wanting to be closer with someone, that's a pattern that we really need to shift and just be really real with ourselves with. It's like, looking back on the times we've done that, or you've done that, has it worked? For me, it never worked. For me, it opened me deeper as a woman, as a deeply feeling woman. It opened me, it opened my heart deeper, and like, that just opened me to the pain of not being met in that space, because he couldn't meet me there. None of those men could meet me there, because we didn't have the foundation for that. So, moving on, let's talk now about making love. And I'm going to be repeating myself, and that's totally cool. We've spoken a lot about what having sex means, and now we're going to talk about what it is to make love. And I am going to share a little bit about what happened the first time I made love. Like, what happened the first time I experienced that. Okay, I needed to take a little break, but I'm back and I'm so excited. I'm just, wow, it's kind of wild how, like, even just talking about the difference, it's like talking about having sex, it's like to use like super hippie language, I feel that it's like lowering my vibration, literally. And when I think about making love, like, oh my god, if you're watching the video of this, I'm like grinning. Oh my gosh, it's the vibe, you know? It's just the vibe. So let's get into it. Making love is a very, very different experience. So, making love, when we come to another person and we are making love with them, we are approaching from a part of our being that is still, right? It's like this is a key component of meditation, like connecting to that which is always present, never changing, like occupying this witness consciousness. So when we connect to that space inside of us, we move differently. We are operating from the center of our being, and we are like deeply connected to who we are as beings and as souls. There are no defenses. And when we make love, we go with an open heart. And this is terrifying. Like there is nothing light and and like fluffy about making love. Like, going with an open heart does not mean that we're like going like just fully, like, I don't know, like throwing rose petals around and like being Romeo and Juliet. Like, I don't know what people think when I say that, but it's like, even if I am terrified, like I'm terrified of opening my heart to you and being like truly seen by you in this moment, like in the deepest part of my being, I'm there. I'm there, and I'm not hiding my fear. I'm not hiding anything. I'm going ready to meet you, or like, you know, meet my beloved, my lover, whoever, like, I'm going defenseless. And if there are defenses, which, like, there are definitely going to be defenses at times for each and every one of us. Like, it's a very natural part of the process, and that's something that opens ecstatically during lovemaking. It's like, I am present with those defenses, and I am revealing those defenses in a way that brings the other person in. It invites them and it shows them who I am and what's there for me in the moment. So I am arriving with a body and nervous system that is willing to open, like willing to open and relax. So, like, the best possible scenario, I guess you could say, like, for entering lovemaking is that I am relaxed, like, I'm super relaxed, I'm still, my nervous system is regulated, I'm feeling connected to myself. Like, that, to be honest, like, that's how we want to be going in. And I know also, like, between two people who've done a lot of work in this area, like, it is possible to go in and be, like, you know, in a slightly rattled space, and together you co-regulate. Or, you know, you can, if you're feeling rattled, or if you're feeling afraid, or if there are defenses or any of this, you're, like, arriving willing to be seen in that and showing up because you want to move beyond it. Even if there's a part of you that's resistant, you feel that and you know that you want to move beyond it. So when we make love, we're in a meditative state. There is no rushing. We're not attached to an outcome. We're not attached to anyone's orgasm. And trust me on this one, letting go of orgasm, letting go of needing for anyone to come, like, even if you're, like, feeling an orgasm building, like, releasing that, it just leads to more pleasure. It's amazing. So we're letting go of all the ideas. We're letting go of needing to orgasm. We're in the moment. So this is sex as a two-person meditation. We're exploring, connecting with another person, moment to moment. We're deeply connected to ourselves as a foundation for the connection. Like, we are always coming back to ourselves. We're breathing. And we are in connection with the other person from moment to moment. We're feeling them. We're feeling their heart. So something that I just briefly want to address is that, because I know there'll be questions around this, it's not necessary for both people to be in this making love state of being. It is incredibly magical and exquisite and, like, oh, it's amazing when both of you are. But the truth is that just one person embodying this frequency dramatically shifts the other person. Like, this is the law of resonance. This is how our nervous systems work when we come into contact with another human being who is like occupying a frequency, like especially in the nervous system. We tend to kind of adapt to them. We tend to mirror them. So yeah, and this is why, like, most of my sacred sexuality journey has been as a single woman. Like, I've been in beautiful loverships, and you know, all the things, but I haven't been in a primary partnership. And that's something that I feel is really magical around what my personal lens to sacred sexuality work, is that it's not about finding your soulmate and then you're experiencing sacred sexuality. No, although like that does happen for many people, and I'm like, that's beautiful, and I'm thrilled. Like, I'm thrilled for you if you get to have that experience. But this, like, sacred sexuality is something that is accessible for all of us, and we can bring that to whoever we meet and have the kind of lovemaking and conscious, like, ecstatic, beautiful, heart-opening experiences that we want. So I really want to empower you to deeply know that, like, that is so possible for you. Like, when you are embodying a really sacred space within yourself, then the other person will feel you, and they will connect to that space, or they'll begin connecting to that space within them and meet you in ways that you would never have imagined. Like, yeah, really. And as women, I do believe, like, we are wow, why can't I say this right now? Iniatresses. Initiatress. Yes, but plural. There's many of us. We're out there. We're out there doing the sex priestess things. Yes, we are. So as you can probably feel, I hope you can feel, there is something very moving and special around connecting on this kind of level with someone else. Like, oh wow, yeah, I feel myself like getting a bit emotional. Before when I used to have sex, and actually I have a little story. So when I was really young, when I was at school, we were studying Romeo and Juliet in English literature. I think I was like 13. Yeah, like super young, 13, maybe 14. For one of our homeworks, our English teacher, I've forgotten his name, but I loved him. He was the best. He gave us the homework to go away and find our favorite love song and print off the lyrics and bring them back to class, and then we all read them out to each other. And firstly, I went to an all-girls school, and like, can you imagine? Wait, I'm just gonna adjust the mic. But like, can you imagine, like, I think that we were like 30 teenage girls, or like 20-something teenage girls, reading the lyrics of our favorite love songs in class to each other. Like, oh my freaking God, like, we need to do this. Like, we need to do it. I'm setting up a club, guys. This is happening. So So, you know I was crying. You know. You know I was weeping. So, the reason I'm telling you this is because this girl called Jessica brought in this poem. Not this poem, this song. It's a song by the Dire Straits that the Killers did a cover of, and I personally love that cover, called Romeo and Juliet. And honestly, I think after I record this podcast, I'm going to need to go and listen to this and just like have a little cry to myself. But focus. So there are the most beautiful lyrics in this song, so stunning. And the lyric that I remember the most was, so the lyric goes, Juliet, when we made love, you used to cry. And it goes on, and it's like, I love you like the stars above, I love you till I die. Oh my God. Jesus. But like, when I heard that, like, I think that was one of the first times that I heard that phrase, make love. And I was just like, what? Like, make love and cry? She used to cry? Whoa. Like, this is something else. And I think, like, at that moment, like, something happened for me, and I realized, like, something very deep and profound can happen during sex, like, that I do not hear being spoken about. So that was a moment, you know, that was a moment from my teenage years where I was like, wow, that's possible. Like, it's possible to love someone else that much and connect in such a deep way that you cry. Like, oh my gosh. So yeah, like, we're not always crying when we make love. Like, that's not always the vibe. It's also like very ecstatic. And by the way, crying is very ecstatic. It can be very orgasmic. But when we make love, like, like, this level of intimacy, honestly, it can be life-changing. It was life-changing for me. It's soulful, it's sacred, it's prayerful. Like, we're meeting soul to soul. And at this level of vibration, we experience sexuality as spiritual practice. Like, we move into some really deep experiences that teach us about the nature of reality, the nature of love. Like, healing is inevitable when we are approaching sexual intimacy like this. Healing on all levels happens. We release physical tension, emotional experience like crying, like anger even. They rise up to be released. And in these experiences, we rewire our nervous system for connection that's deeply sourced in safety and belonging. Like, making love it's such a deep experience. It can be such a profound experience of belonging, like belonging in our bodies, belonging to life, belonging to love. Our womb, our cervix, and our yoni, or our vagina, whatever you call that part of you, like these deep parts of our female anatomy naturally release tension, shame, fear, trauma, and like any semblance of abuse or negative, challenging experience when they are met in such reverence and devotion. Like, this is why I'm so passionate around making love and sacred sexuality. I would not be the woman that I am. Like, I wouldn't be a shadow of the woman that I am without these deeply healing sexual experiences. And I believe that these experiences are crucial for humanity. So we can go incredibly deep with making love. We can experience our lover as the divine, as God, goddess. We can feel as if we are merging with the universe. We can have all kinds of wild, like DMT, psychedelic kind of experiences that really, like, at the crux of it, just being met in deep presence and love is life-changing for our soul and for our lives. And coming back, to the Romeo and Juliet thing, and like when I used to have sex, it's like I used to only dream, like I used to dream that I would meet one man, my soulmate, my beloved, like one man who would be able to meet me on such a deep level. That was my wish for myself, just one, because I knew and I deeply felt in my being that, like, that's enough. Like, meeting one person who can do this is enough to change us forever. And I've been deeply in love in my life, but I haven't had a primary partner for a really, really long time. But what I have had? Many incredible, loving men in my life who know how to make love to me. And who I've experienced, like, profound experiences of merging, profound sexual healing, all kinds of healing with. Like, knowing how to reach these states is something that I carry with me now. It's part of my energetic signature, and it's no longer about him. Like, of course, on some level it is, and like, every man carries like potent, unique codes that they will bless us with, and we choose the one that's right for us at whichever stage of our life we're in. But I know that if I would be in like a long-term partnership, and if I had never have had this experience of lovemaking, like, even if I had my beloved, there would be a part of me on a deep soul level that felt like there's something missing. because making love is about, it's like literally being fucked to God. It's like being opened to the divine through our body, through our heart. It's praying over someone else, like as you share intimacy. It's literally 11:11 right now. This is beautiful. Praying over someone as you love them, as you make love to them, as you bless them with everything that's in your heart, everything that you dream of for them, everything that you dream of for yourself, like blessing them with that. It's worship. It's worshipping someone else. Spiritual practice. Making love as prayer. So, this has been a really long episode. Thank you for staying with it if you have. So, I will tell you very, very briefly what happened the first time that I experienced this kind of intimacy. It was not pretty. Like it was not rainbows and roses. Like, I basically freaked the fuck out. Like, I'm feeling into like how much of this I really want to share, and I don't really want to share too much of the details. But, you know, he was a very special being. And we were both living in an ashram at the time. And yeah, so we were both accessing a level of depth and choosing that as our world, like choosing that as our way of living. And I do think that's important, but you do not have to be living in an ashram. And believe me, I've been like, I haven't lived in this ashram for many, many years, and my experiences get better all the time. But yeah, it terrified me. Like, having a man be so completely with me, caring so much about me and my experience, like I had no reference point for that. Like, I was used to having sex with men and it just being like, it just felt like they were doing their thing. They were in their own world. I was just like, what is going on? Or I was in a space of like, cool, I'm like, you know, I'm also taking for my own pleasure. Like, I'm doing what feels good for me. But like, being in this experience with him, and like we continued exploring a relationship, but like just the first time I was stunned, and not in a good way. Like, I was totally frozen, because prior to this, I had experiences of sexual healing with the men I'd been with, but I was the one facilitating them. Like, I was the one kind of holding a masculine pole. Like, I was holding a space for them. And for me, this was like, it was the first time I was truly receiving from someone who could hold that space for me. And I was totally overwhelmed by it. My system couldn't hold it. Like, he was just fully there, completely willing to meet me, completely present, and I wasn't. Like, I was totally disassociated and overwhelmed by the intensity of it. It was way too much. He wanted this like total presence from me, and it was so overwhelmingly vulnerable to be seen by him that I just froze. You know, and I remember him asking me, like, does this feel good to you? And I mean, oh my God, like, I was like mind blown, shocked, very emotional and confused. Like, the experiences blasted me out of myself, and I had no words to explain what was happening. It was not pleasurable. And like, he was asking me, does this feel good to you? Because I wasn't in pleasure. I was in shock. Like, I was in shock, and it was a life-changing moment for me where I could feel, and I think this is what love does to us. This is how love heals us, is that when we receive this huge amount of like presence and love and devotion and care and attention, we can see and feel so clearly where we're shut down inside of ourselves. Like, it mirrors to us where we are not ready to receive that, and we are like, how do I shut this down? Like, I'd had beautiful sexual experiences before this, but this was the first time where I felt a man so deeply care about what I was experiencing and so invested in my own experience. I was like, I don't even know what the expression is. I was just stunned, you know, and it changed me forever. Receiving that level of presence and devotion, understanding like how deeply a man could care about my experience of our like intimacy, that he was not focused on himself, he was fully focused on me, and not just my pleasure. Like, it wasn't about me having pleasure, like, because obviously he wanted that, but what he wanted was all of me. Like, he wanted my full awareness and like full connection, like unbreaking connection, like full eye contact, for all of it. And I couldn't hold that, but I learned in our relationship, and just that moment, like just that one experience with him totally changed my life. And after we broke up, like after that connection ended, I was celibate for over a year, because I knew I had entered into a new stage of my own sexuality and what I was available for with men. because I was never going back after that. So there we have it. This has been a long one. I'm gonna wrap this up now, and I would so love to hear, like, how has this episode been for you? Has it brought up something for you? Do you have questions? Like, I would love to hear how it's landed for you. I'd love that. I'd love to know where this meets you, where you're at in your sacred sexuality journey. Has this brought up the feels? And if you want to share the lyrics to your favorite love song, my inbox is like so open. I am so available. If anyone wants to send me any love poetry, your favorite love songs, I'm here for it, babes. I'm here. So I love you. I love you, and it's my deepest prayer that in me sharing this information and sharing about my experiences, this can be a catalyst for deeper intimacy and connection between humans on this planet. So that's my prayer. I love you. Have such a beautiful day, and take care till next time. You're listening to the Embodied Mystic Podcast. Thank you for being here and for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and that it could serve you in some way. I'd love to hear from you. My inbox is always open. Let me know what spoke to you in this episode, and if there was a moment that lit you up or brought you into deeper self-reflection. If you loved this episode, I'd be super grateful if you took a moment to leave a review or share with a friend. You can do this easily by visiting the link in the show notes. It's been a real pleasure connecting with you today, and I'll see you soon.